Welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. My name is Jacob Dahlin, your humble correspondent. With us today is an exciting junior player from Sweden, Kim Hilmersson, who plays right now in the North American Hockey League for the Maine Nordiques. Welcome to this episode.
Thank you for having me.
This episode is brought to you by Scandlux, your home for Scandinavian luxury products for the U.S. market. You can find us at scandlux.com.
Excited.
So I'm sitting here and your camera is, let's start here. Your camera is aimed at insulation in the ceiling. And my question to you was, man, are you still in the garage? And and you showed me the picture around kind of the billet room and you and another roommate there, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're living in the basement currently, so it's fine, really. Like I'm having a good time, so playing a lot of hockey. That's all I'm living for.
Yeah. So let's before we get into Maine Nordiques, which is going to be exciting to talk about, because we haven't had that many junior players actually on. We want to do more of that, but I think you're I appreciate you coming on. So give us a little bit of background of Kim Hilmersson and where are you from? Because we've got both Swedish listeners and U.S. Canadian listeners, and so give us a little bit of background.
So I am from Uppsala, Sweden, and as I've been there my whole life basically. I grew up there and everything. Went to school there, and played for Almtuna in Uppsala, and played there. That was my first team, and I played there until U16, and when I was 12, 13, I always played up with 03s. I'm born in 2004, and always played with 03s, and had a great time. It was a really good team there with Almtuna. But their U16 year, I chose to go back to the 04s and start playing with the 04s again with Almtuna, and the team wasn't as great, but we still had a great time. And our U15 year, it was this team, SPA, Seacoast Performance Academy, who came to Sweden and played my Almtuna, my old team, and I had a pretty good game and scored a hat trick. And SPA wanted to talk to me after, the coaches, and the year after that, I went to the States and started playing with SPA from U15, U16, and U18.
Yeah,
and,
so if we pull you up on Elite Prospects, so what do you think the first thing? First, they have to put in 2 S's in Hilmersson, right? Because everybody will put in Hilmersson with 1 S, so it's 2 S's. What do you think the first thing they're going to say?
Whoa, this Swede is black? I had no idea.
So maybe, which is not too common. He's not a blonde kid, right?
No.
But no, that's actually not what I was referring to.
No, that's funny though. I like you don't see a lot of black Swedes playing hockey.
So the biggest thing that I wanted to point out is Kim is a big guy, 6'1", 207, or that may have been old now, but you're a big guy.
That's about right.
Yeah. And you play big. I mean, you're a forward. You're not a defenseman, 6'1", 207, but you're a power forward and always been big. Every time since I started talking to you and looking at your profile, it's been, wow, power in everything is what you're all about. So have you always been a big kid?
I would say so, yes. I always, maybe not the tallest, but I've always had a good amount of muscles on my body and always been able to, I'm not going to say throw around kids, but be a little bit dominant with my body.
But you've also enjoyed kind of the aspect of putting in the work in the gym as well.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
So Almtuna, which is Uppsala, is where Almtuna is. For those in the U.S. and Canada, how far away from Stockholm? What are we?
45 minutes.
45 minutes. But and were you on the which TV puck county or which at that time were you involved in that, or were you already in the US by then?
That's also a kind of funny story. So yeah, I was at the TV Pucken camp and everything. I did all of that. The coach said, sorry, but I can't have you since you're going to the States. But if you would have stayed in Sweden, we would have had you on the team, of course, he said.
Which team is Uppsala in?
That would be in Uppland.
Uppland. So it's not part of Stockholm North or anything like that. No. Okay, Uppland. How did they do when you that year?
They did not make playoffs. I'm not.
Okay,
I
thought you were gonna say they won it all.
I would not have made a big difference. Definitely not. You're really good.
You're too humble. But then, so Uppsala has an NIU gymnasium, right?
Yes, sir.
So interesting. I think what made you? It's a unique path. I should look up in elite prospects. I should have done it ahead of time, but not that many kids come over at the age of 15 to play in the U.S. Especially not, I'm sure their kids are coming over where their parents are moving to Florida, or their parents are coming over with Volvo or Electrolux or something like that. But you took a different path. You went over to Seacoast in, where is that? That's in Essex, New Hampshire.
No, it's
Exeter,
New Hampshire.
Yeah, so up north. What made you? I mean, I'm sure that was proposed to you, but let's talk about that decision-making process of taking that leap.
I just did not get any really J18 offers. Just not from Almtuna, because I still trying to figure that out. My dad has tried to talk to them. Just no answer really. Just in the past year or two, we have tried to talk to them still. Just no answer to why. I'm having a great time in the States, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Just didn't get any offers from the J18 teams. Just nothing really.
So the opportunity was there to then take a year in the US, and that became 2 years.
Yes.
Right. No, let's see. You played 3 years with Seacoast.
That's from the U15 and then 16s and then 18s.
Yeah. And then so talk a little bit about that, because it's different. So at U16, when you're playing U15 AAA in the US, how was that different than, let's say, U16 or U18 in Sweden? A lot more travel.
A lot more traveling, yeah. The teams are way further than they're in Sweden. The rinks, it's smaller, so it's a way quicker game, way more physical. And I would say the chirping is a little higher too. What I remember, I wasn't talking that much in Sweden because nobody would talk back. But here, I'm not the first guy starting talking. So I think that's a fun part of it.
And you lived with a family right away, a billet family?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And how's that been? In terms of the first
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very tough the first year. Missed my family, missed my friends, missed Sweden. Didn't really know my place, where to go and what to do during the days. But school was really tough. That was really tough. But didn't get that figured out until 2 months. Until the school year, so I had a rough time in school because of the language barrier too.
And then you came so when you first came, was that before COVID, right?
Yes. So yeah, I flew back when we first heard of COVID. I flew back the day after, back to Sweden. So it was a very short season that year.
But you were Seacoast had an online. Or did you have online academy then?
Yeah.
I didn't know if you went to a high school in New Hampshire, but so you did the online schooling, and then everything's in English.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, I remember that too when I was in high school, and I was a pretty good student, but everything was different, and it was a challenge, and new systems and then you have to took a while to get used to. So for sure. And then what was the big differences in terms of, was it about similar practice load compared to Sweden or more or less?
So my coach, U15 year, his name is Ed Sini, one of the greatest coaches I've ever had. He coached college hockey for 30 years. So his practices were a bit different. It was a lot of games, just trying to find like game situations and like smaller drills, and really like that. And it was usually like a lot of 3-on-3s, like in the zone and just like the small areas and stuff like that.
How was that different than in Sweden?
It was more like full ice drills in Sweden I don't know about now, since I haven't been there a while, haven't practiced with the Swedish team for a while. It was, when I remember, it was more open ice, like full ice drills and stuff like that. And like, more passing and just like structure, than more like not thinking as much, just like do the drill.
So when people look you up then on Elite Prospects and they see, okay, Seacoast Spartans, U15 AAA, and you also played in the Beast. So when you see the Beast, people don't know really in Sweden what's the Beast, and U15 AAA. How do you compare that level versus, U16 in Uppsala? In terms of the level and competitiveness?
I would say the teams in the US, all the good players goes to like a few teams, like the top 10, top 20 teams. And so the top teams are way better, but it's not as many. And then the worst teams are not as good. They're pretty terrible. Whereas in Sweden, it's more like structure, like in the whole country, and just like a few good players in that team, a few good players in that team. And just like you have your two players, while in America, you have the full team it's a good team.
Especially at the U15 before it gets into gymnasium, right?
Yes.
So, and then what about U18? Because you played both U15, then you played U16, and then, of course, there is no U17 level here.
Right.
You go straight into U18.
Mm-hmm.
How does U18 differ than J18 juniors in Sweden?
So actually, Seacoast had a U17 team. We only had 04s that year. It was only 04s against 04s and 03s. So we got thrown around a little bit because not everybody was as big as the 03s. So it was a tough year that year. I mean, I've watched a few of the J8 teams because a few of my buddies play there, but I haven't played myself in the J18 game, so I wouldn't know in that way. But it still looks fast. It doesn't look as fast because the rink is much bigger.
Yeah.
So it looks slower, but I don't think it's that much slower. I think it's about the same.
Yeah, and I think that's a good description of it. I think that in the before, if you compare the U16 to U16, meaning pre-gymnasium in Sweden, the level is at the AAA level, at the highest level, the top 20 teams in the US are probably better. But then when you get a much more concentrated level in Sweden at the U17 and U18 or J18 level in Sweden, because of the hockey gymnasiums in J18 region and J18 national.
Yeah, because then all the other players go to those good teams, so it's not anymore.
But you decided not to play your last year of U18. You could have played U18 AAA
this year.
Seacoast this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide, I want to play, and I think it'd be good for the Swedish listeners too to explain what the difference is between U18 AAA and Tier 2 juniors or Tier 3 or Tier 1. But what made you decide, hey, I want to play North American Hockey League?
It was just making the next level and getting into a new team and a new atmosphere, just a new team, and just seeing how that would be there, and just me getting to the next level and turning into a better player and playing against bigger and older and faster and just better players overall.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Maine Nordiques plays in Maine, which is on the not too far away from New Hampshire.
No, it's about 2 hours.
But on up there, way up north, is one of these states that we forget about, almost like Vermont. Up in the north, cold. I live in North Carolina, so it was nice and 80 degrees here today. But North American Hockey League, it's an old league, meaning, so let's talk about, you could be, what's the last year juniors? This year's 02, right?
Yeah, 20 years old.
02 birth year, or you could be 20 years old December 31st, but you cannot be 21. So, but if you look at the rosters for North American Hockey League, not very many 05s, really not that many 04s. It's mainly 02s and 03 birth year players.
Right.
For you to break into North American Hockey League is it's not an easy thing.
Right. No, yeah. We have 105 in our team, and I think we have 4 or 5 04s. The rest are 03s and 02s.
Yeah. So walk us through kind of how you ended up in Maine, because I'm sure that you were talking to, did you go through the North American Hockey League draft?
I did not. I got tendered.
So you got tendered. Explain the difference. What's the difference between a draft and a tender?
So a tender is like, before the draft, they can say they have a certain amount of tenders, and they say we want these players. Before the draft, just like they're already in like their affiliate list.
Yep.
And so that's before the draft, and then the draft goes and just goes like a normal draft. It's just like we pick these few guys before the draft, and nobody else can have them.
Yep. So it's a contract of sort, right? And then those. So the team that you plays for now, Maine, tendered you and then owned your rights for the North American Hockey League.
Yes, sir.
And then, but you also were drafted in the USHL.
Yeah, that was U16.
Yeah, and then you ended up with an injury, which kind of a bummer, but
yeah, I had to show a little shoulder surgery, but all good now.
Yeah. So, but then you're tendered, so you already know before the season, this is where I'm going to play in the North American Hockey League.
I had to go through training camp and everything, like everybody else, but pretty sure. I was pretty sure.
Yeah. So how was that? You're coming over, and but you didn't do the pre-draft. You went straight into the main camp.
No, it was the main camp, but then into training camp. Yeah, I went straight to training camp.
Oh, so you didn't have to go to main camp, but you went straight into training camp, and then you're trying to fight for a roster spot at that time. And then, how was that to tell us about how did you find out that you made the roster? Is that a text message, email, or a phone call?
No, it's a face to face.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a week of training camp. I got there in August, and I hadn't played a game since Christmas, since my surgery. So it was a little tough in the beginning, getting used to the speed again. But I adjusted and I made a team. I think it was like 7 games. No, it was more than 7 games, 7+ games in 5 days. It was like a bunch of 4-on-4, like 2 games was 4-on-4s, and then it was mostly 5-on-5 games. It was like divided up in colors. And the last day, we were all down in front office and just waiting for your name to get called. And there was the coach, Matt Pinchevsky, Coach Ryan Shelley, and our GM Salts.
Yeah.
And they were there and basically saying, you made a team or you did not make the team. That's short story.
So, did you have a plan B?
Plan B, I did not. Oh, I mean, plan B was going back to SBA.
Okay.
But I went all in to make the team, and it worked out.
Yep. All right. So now you're on the North American Hockey League, in the North American Hockey League. So what are your goals? I mean, why do you want to play in the North American Hockey League? What's the next step?
Next step, I mean, want to get committed and play Division I college and take it from there. I mean, the goal is always to play in NHL, but that's maybe more of a dream right now. But hopefully I can turn it into a goal.
Yeah, and I think that's I think it's great because it's all about having the vision, the goal, and then you establish kind of the path from there. What's my strategy to make it D1 college, right? And sure, you could have went and had an option of playing Tier 3 or playing EHL, NA3, or USPHL, but really, if you want to play D1, you got to play either Tier 1 or Tier 2, either in Canada or in the US. So you're in the right spot. So now you can play 3 years there, right?
I have this year. Yeah, 3 years. 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. So you got plenty of time, and you're early in the North American Hockey League. And they really don't want to, the D1 schools really don't want to sign you before you've had all your years of eligibility,
right?
Unless you're Connor McDavid and they sign, they want to sign you right away, or Cale McCarr or somebody like that. But
going as a true freshman is very hard. Then you got to go.
Yeah. So for those who are wondering, then okay, North American Hockey League. I don't know anything about the North American Hockey League. How does that? So we just talked about that it's 04, it's 05, 04, 03, and 02 players. Very few 05s in the league. It's mainly 02, 03. So, that, how do you compare that to J18 or J20 in Sweden? Of course, if you got 02s, you have very so you have the equivalent of you have one more year of eligibility in the US compared to J20 in Sweden.
Yeah.
You see some players that are joining after they've exhausted J20 and they come over for last year juniors here. But what would you say, how good is the North American Hockey League?
I would say it's still a very good league, even though it's tier 2. It's top notch still. Like it's usually the older players, and they're very big, very fast. We have this guy on our team. His name's Patrick Schmedlin, the fastest guy I've ever seen on the ice. Wow, that guy can skate. It's a very good league. It's a fast league, strong league.
Yeah, is it all physical with a small rink, or is it skill too?
It's still a lot of skill. It's not only physical.
Yeah,
we'll see somebody that goes through the whole team, and then the other shift you will see a fight and somebody gets knocked out. So it depends on the player.
Yeah, but I think that's a misconception. A lot of Swedish people think, okay, North American juniors, it's all physical. It's just dump and chase and
not
big
like that.
hits on the boards.
No, definitely not like that. You'll go see someone snipe one bar down.
Yeah. What other differences do you see? Of course, you got the big rink in Sweden. You got the smaller rinks here.
You definitely.
How many games do you play during the week?
During the week, usually 2. Sunday, Saturday, but sometimes it's 3. Actually, this upcoming week we have a game Tuesday, and then we have games Friday, Saturday. So it's 3. So sometimes 3, but usually 2.
And Maine is part of. Are you going all the way down to Texas and playing those guys? So that would be in the Nationals, right?
Yeah, in the playoffs.
In the playoffs. So the teams that you guys belong to is who else is in your division? So you got the Northeast Generals,
Danbury Hat-Tricks. I'm just trying to see you and go down. It's Titans.
New Jersey. Yeah, we had Jack Carlson on earlier. He won the Nationals last year,
right?
With them.
No, it's Maryland Black Bears, Philadelphia. I think it's Rebels. I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know all the teams on my head like that, but that's a few of them.
Yeah. No, so it's very concentrated there on the East Coast for you guys.
Yeah, it's not as long a ride. So the longest ride we have is a bus ride, 12 hours, 14 hours. That's to Maryland. That's the longest. And then we have the shortest, that's 2 hours to Northeast Generals.
Yeah. And the rink, so where is the home rink in Maine?
Lewiston, Maine.
Lewiston, Maine. And what's the biggest city that you're close to?
Probably Portland.
Portland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for those who don't know anything about Maine, just look it up and you're going to see not necessarily the
not
most
big
populated.
No.
But I mean, so your goals there is to play hockey. You've already been acclimated to the U.S. You've been here now for several years. And are you guys rolling through? Are you going home for Christmas or anything? Or are you?
Yeah, go home for Christmas. Go home.
Yeah, a piece of advice. If you listen to the last episode that we released was Tommy Stålhammar. He played for Cedar Rapids in the USA. And he was going home for 2 weeks and left his gear because he was just going to take off and not do anything and
right.
Got in trouble for it. So don't do that.
No, I already talked to Coach though. He said you're all good. I only have 10 days. I'm coming back the 28th and going on a little vacation with my grandfather and everybody. Just because I'm going to vacation to Spain there. But,
nice.
I'll bring my shorts and some weights to do some workouts. Maybe I can't skate in Spain, but I'll do the best of it.
Yeah, you need to make sure you're putting on social media and make it well known that you're actually working out.
I will.
So let's wrap it up here a little bit about so your goals here in terms of you're in a good spot. You're in the North American Hockey League. I mean, who knows? You could be called up in the USHL as well, but I guess a little bit of a drawback for you is that you've been over here for several years, and had you played in gymnasium, you probably would have had some opportunities with the Swedish national team, but now you're kind of forgotten over here. Is that a big deal?
Say that again.
Is that a big deal? I mean, it's a sacrifice that you're making.
Right now, I wouldn't say it's a big deal because I think the scouts of the national team, they are looking more in Sweden because it's closer. It's kind of expensive to fly someone over just for 1 game or 2 games, but I'm sure I get my chance when you get more as an adult and maybe like the Junior World Cup or something like that. I'm sure I got my chance once or twice and then show what I go for.
Yeah. Because there's a little bit more common that there's some other kids that are playing in the USHL or North American Hockey League that they've already had on their radar in the J18 Nationals. So, so the goals here, aside from, is that a little, maybe a little small goal for you
to play for the national team? Definitely, yes.
But the big thing is really to play in college. So what's the focus now? Is it just kind of hammer down and score as many goals as you can? And what are you trying to work on?
To get to college first, I need to finish high school. I'm still in high school, still have my classes to do. But just have a solid season and show what I go for. Yeah.
I think that it's you're an exciting player to kind of follow. It is a little bit of easy to forget about the Swede over here because you've not been in Sweden for a while, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is don't forget about Kim Hilmersson. He is a Swedish kid. He is playing at a high level in the U.S. and he's a big kid, and he's been putting up the points. Okay, maybe not right here in the start, but very, very young for the league. And I would say after first of the year, we're going to see the boosters being turned on here.
Yeah, just getting started in the league. You need to understand what's going on at the junior level. Still taking a little time to get used to that. But I'm sure next year or after Christmas, when I'm fully in my boots and know what's going on there in the NAHL, I'm sure I'll put up the number of points that I do.
Yep. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to check in with you a little bit, and maybe we'll do a little player highlight. We're going to try to get Shinander, who plays in Sweden. We've had Jack Carlson on. We're going to check in with him. He's in college, and we're going to check in with you as well and do a little, maybe after Christmas, a little check-in to see how things are going and get a little update.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for having you on and jumping on this podcast, and we'll stay in tune.
Thank you for having me.